On the anniversary of the terror attack on Parliament, a major dramatic security breach took place inside Parliament. I'm Barkhatat, you're with the Mojo Story. The images from inside Parliament today were startling. Two men, one identified as Sagar Sharma, the other is Manjunath, jumped from the visitors' gallery 15 feet down into where the MPs were doing their work in the Lok Sabha. They jumped with smoke bombs apparently hidden in their shoes. These are the images of clouds of smoke that you see touching almost the ceiling of the new parliament building from inside. The MPs were shocked, startled. Many of them jumped in and actually attacked the intruders, handling them themselves, as you can see in these pictures, for once bearing differences, bearing political debate, and coming together to stand against these intruders. Outside Parliament, too, there were protests. You're seeing those images of this woman identified as Neelam in the blue kurta. Nobody knows who these people were. And the controversy has deepened because at least one of the visitors' passes for this intruder was secured from the office of the BJP Member of Parliament from Mysore. Visitor passes have now been suspended in the light of what has happened. But it can be no coincidence that what happened was planned, carefully planned. Because why would it take place on the very anniversary of one of the worst terror attacks that we still remember and commemorate? The Prime Minister this morning met with the families of security personnel who were martyred in that attack more than 20 years ago. This has been a major security breach, and there can be no two words about it. And because we didn't want to have a political conversation, this is not a subject for politicization. I want to introduce our guest today. I just want to correct myself before that. The second intruder was identified as Manoranjan. I said Manjunath by mistake, and the first one as Sagar Sharma. All right, let me introduce our experts on the program today. General Dhruv Katoch is with us from the India Foundation. Welcome to the program, sir. Also joining us is Ameera Borwankar. She's been a senior IPS officer, including police commissioner in Pune. Also joining us is Yashovardhan Azad. Mr. Azad is not just a senior IPS officer and served with the Intelligence Bureau. It was his job at one time to look after the security of several high-profile politicians. So this speaks right to his domain. And also joining us is strategic affairs expert Dr. Tara Karta. Now, I want to actually let's play up the images while we talk to our experts of those smoke-filled clouds inside Parliament, and we have many testimonies from the MPs as well. But Yasho Azad, if I can start with you, your first thoughts. How do we explain what's happened?
Well, it's a shocking incident, and especially timed with the event which took place about 22 years back. This is highly, highly significant. I wish, just to say, as my preliminary remark, that I wish there was more caution exercised on this particular day, which is a momentous day because of the security men who had lost their lives. And this is a complete failure at the screening point where the guests come in. This is also a time to look at the screening procedures for the guests of the members of parliament. And mind you, Barkha, the responsibility, it is of the MPs to take care of the guests because they write that this person is known to me. Therefore, I would say the links are not out as yet. Even the Delhi anti-terrorist cell is involved in it. It looks like a political kind of an, outpouring which was taking place outside Transport Bhavan, which had sent, of course, their people inside. But let's hope there is nothing more to it.
Can I ask you something, though, before I open it up? The visitor's pass is something that has been used in the many years I've reported Parliament. That, yes, has been suspended now. But how did they get in with these smoke bombs hidden inside their shoes? Isn't that the bigger breach?
Yes, the biggest breach in this particular place is, you see, Parliament has layers and layers of security. And after 2001, there was a committee which looked into it. And then all kinds of things were done, like physical infrastructure, bollards, drop gauge, radio tags, etc., etc. But the main point was the screening of the people who enter the Parliament House as guests or as visitors or for the employees. Now, these are screened by the Parliament Duty Group, which is there inside. And this happened at the point where they get an entry into the precincts. Now, there is, of course, the door frame metal detector which checks the metals. Then after that, you are checked by the handheld metal detectors. And then if there is some kind of a doubt, then you are checked physically. Obviously, in this case, in their shoes, they had kept those canisters or those bottles, and those bottles were not metallic. But then it is the job of a professional security man to look at the people who are coming, whether they have a limb, whether they have any kind of, traits in their personality, which is very, very noticeable. They just let them go. So I would say it is a complete failure of the people at that point, those security men who were supposed to screen them. Secondly, it was also incumbent upon the people inside, as we say, the last mile security at the point where they were sitting. There are marshals in the well below. There are security men even on top, which is the responsibility of the parliament.
I think we've lost Yasho there as he was making that point. But, he made the point there that there's been multiple levels of failure, including the people who screen the guests as they come in. Mr. Azad, are you there? Are you back? You want to complete your point?
Yes, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. We heard most of you, just your last sentence. Yeah.
Yeah. And therefore, the last point is that if those canisters did not emit chemical poisonous kind of fumes or noxious fumes, we are very, very thankful. In fact, one of the MPs who was standing in front said that it was already stinging his eyes. So mercifully, the 7 MPs caught this guy who did not have anything lethal. And therefore, I think we have been saved of a mishap, but it's a very serious lapse, I would say.
Yeah. I want to play out actually 2 videos before I open this up. One is a testimony from one of the members of parliament who saw what happened. Again, I have deliberately called no politicians to this program because we don't want the usual tutu meme between political parties at this point. It is far too serious an issue. But these are eyewitness testimonies. And I want to just play out a testimony of one of the members of parliament, Kakoli Ghosh, who was inside the Lok Sabha when these men jumped. And one of the things that struck me, and I want you to think about it, is that height must have been, about 15 feet? I mean, untrained people can just jump 15 feet like that and land like without getting hurt. It struck me as quite suspicious. But take a look at what she said about what happened. Can we have the sound up, please? We don't have the sound on this. Hang on. We need to get this video to be correct. We can't hear the sound. Do we have the correct one with the sound? If you can play that, please. We don't have that right now, so let's keep the conversation going. General Katosh, let's come in with your thoughts.
Thank you, Barka. Barka, the opening statement made by Mr. Yashovardhan, I totally go with that. But there are a few more points which I would like to add on. One, as you had mentioned in your opening comments, the significance of the day is vital. You see, they chose to do it today because 22 years earlier, the parliament attack was carried out. This points to a much larger conspiracy, in my view. The second point, it was coordinated. That means we had these 2 people inside the parliament, and then we had people out, and both of them were operating in conjunction with each other. Now, I don't believe in coincidences. This was not a lark or a schoolboy prank which they were playing. This was an extremely serious affair. It is a terrorist attack, regardless of the fact whether simply colored smoke was used. Now, these people who have executed it, in my view, I may be wrong, but it's my view, they're merely pawns. There is somebody behind them. And I think that is the larger conspiracy which we need to get after. Who is behind these people? The other 20 years plus something, boys and girls, whoever they are radicalized or what. But there has to be someone behind them. This level of planning and preparation and coordination is a very high level. I will go to the extent of saying a military operation. The last point, when they're on the balcony or, where the press are stayed, the visitors galleries there, 15 feet is not an easy jump. 15 feet is a very, very difficult jump. I know we have done these things. You just don't jump 15 feet and then say that we'll carry on operations. But more importantly, there should have been marshals there. I have been to many meetings where senior people have been talking, like the Prime Minister and all that. and I know the way we are frisked. And when we sit down, the instructions passed are very clear. You cannot stand up. Now, what are those marshals doing? It is, the security staff inside Barca, I'm afraid, I think they have to bear the major brunt of this responsibility. They were lax. For whatever reasons they were lax, this laxity has spread in. It needs to be curbed. And the marshals inside, I think they also need to improve their procedures. We cannot allow something like this to happen. Instead of smoke, colored smoke, it could have been sarin gas. And we could have had 50 to 100 dead inside, the way it happened in
So,
Japan.
so you believe, General Katoch, that this was an attempted terror attack and there is something bigger behind this?
Yes, I will. I will equate it to a very serious terror attack, the way it took place 22 years ago. It is
Yes,
exactly the same.
Yashu, you want to add to that, please, Mr. Azad?
Well, I think it's too early to say it can be related to a terror attack. Preliminary findings reveal actually it is not. The kind of sloganeering they were doing, they said, "Tanashahi nahi chalegi." That it can be linked to Panun even, I don't think it's true, because Panun likes to advertise almost everything. Outside Transport Bhavan, it was a kind of a political kind of a rally. Therefore, I would not link it to a terrorist attack. But the Delhi anti-terrorist cell is there, and they will definitely ferret out almost everything. So let's see what really comes out of that. As of now, I will not say it's a terrorist attack.
Okay, let me bring in Meera Borwankar and Dr. Tara Kartar. Meera Borwankar, wait, how do you see this? You see, Yashu says too early to say terror attack. General Katoch says it has all the makings of a terror attack, exactly what happened 22 years ago. The fact is, we don't know who these people are. We don't know what their motivation is. But I think one of the points that both our speakers have agreed on is that 15 feet is no small feat, right? It's not a small, like if somebody who's not from a security background walks in, who's not trained and just is asked to jump 15 feet. I mean, you either have to be crazy or trained. Like that's what I would say. Ms. Borwankar, please unmute yourself, ma'am. Please unmute yourself and do respond.
So I would also like Azad sir not like to guess at this point, but one thing which has struck me in this particular case and in many other security scenarios is that our staff, including the marshals in this particular case, they get into a rut, a routine, and they are not able to visualize various scenes, which can be security risk. Therefore, there seems to be a failure at the door metal detector, door frame detector phase, but also where were the watchers? And in India, I have been observing that we are not we are not deploying imaginative watchers. If there had been a very active, interested, aware watcher, he would have caught, because these boys, after all, were using their shoes. They were planning to jump, and 15 feet jump. Even if the first security cordon had failed, second, third cordon should have taken care of. And this kind of international embarrassment, besides being a very severe and grave security threat, it's also an embarrassment that we can't have our parliament safe. I would like to give an example where once on PM Bandobast, I found a melon. Melon means tarboos. Huh? I thought it would be a security risk, but my staff said, "Nahi, madam, raho dena." And it was on that Bandra, from airport to Bandra. So I had to talk to my staff. Don't think of only routine threats to a VIP. And here we are not talking of a single VIP. We are talking of the whole parliament. So my take is that our security failed because we are absolutely run-of-the-mill routine kind of security providers. We should have youngsters telling us what all they can do and where they can, like 15 feet jump, that we can do it. This is my main take, that our security system has to be more imaginative and expect threats which are absolutely non-traditional.
That's a very important point, that there's a lack of agility. And I'm not sure whether Mr. Azad, General Katoch, Miran would agree with Miran. But Dr. Karta, what do you think? the link to Pannu, right? Gurpat Pant Pannu, who did threaten to attack Parliament, we don't know. We have literally no idea who these people are. Who is this Sagar Sharma? Is that even his name? Right? Who is this Manjunath? Who is this Neelam outside? Who are these people who have approached a BJP MP from Mysore, at least one of them, asked for a pass from his office, got in with no apparent motive except perhaps, as Miran says, maybe the motive was to inflict embarrassment. Maybe that was the motive. I don't know. Dr. Karta.
See, what is the end result? You apparently got, like you said, 6 crazies who jumped
Yeah.
into parliament, and it's not like you said, it's not a hop, skip, and jump. It's quite a difficult task, and they do this. I mean, it makes the end result is the message is you are vulnerable. That is the message that has gone across, that the heart of democracy in India is vulnerable. Okay, so somebody, to my mind, I will in some part support what the general had said, that someone is probably sending you a message that we can get you anytime we want. However, on the security angle, I'd like to say, in my past avatar, which when the Bombay attacks happened, when we had sent out alerts that we had said this is going to happen at hotel and high 5-star hotel in Bombay, and the security was upped, it will be up for a week, 10 days. Beyond that, it will go down. That is how security is. And we are, remember, Barka, we are a hyper security state as it is. We are so fussy about security. But in the end, when you cannot have 24/7 alert security, it doesn't happen. But it should happen in Parliament. I don't expect it in a 5-star hotel because it's a tourism center. This is despite our telling people, right, that there's going to be an attack. And that it's not humanly possible to be on your toes all the time. So I would agree.
I was just going to bring in Mr. Azad briefly because we have the testimony of the MPs ready now. But you may not agree with General Katoch that it's a terror attack, but by definition, if you're able to inflict damage inside India's parliament, if you're able to jump 15 feet from the visitors gallery into the Lok Sabha space where all the MPs are, with smoke bombs in your shoes, what should we call it, Mr. Azad? And is this an intelligence failure? We've spoken about screening failure. Is it also an intelligence failure?
No, I won't say it's an intelligence failure at all. In fact,
Why?
There are various, if it's Panun, if it's anybody, any other particular group, there's a thing called modus operandi, which, we are all aware of. If Panun does something, he does it very, very openly. He gives a message, okay, if you put the flag up, I'll give you 2 lakhs. If you cut the head off somebody, I'll give you 5 lakhs. If you jump down without making the appropriate slogan or talking Khalistani terrorists, what is the use of just jumping down and saying only, ye tanashahi nahi chalegi? It is more of a political expression as of now. And I'm saying it's too early to say that it's a kind of a terrorist outpouring or an expression. And therefore, yes, they did jump. They must have practiced. They must have timed it very well with the agitation happening outside. But to link it as yet with the terrorist kind of fear, I will not agree. I think that's going too far.
General Katoch,
and
do you want to respond?
One more point.
Yeah,
one more point.
Yeah.
What Miran said was, I totally agree. I said that is the unprofessional attitude. You see, at the airport, also when you're coming towards for physical screening, there is at least 15 feet when you walk to that person. That's the time when that fellow, as a watcher, there are other people who watch you. Do you have a limp? Do you have some kind of a special gait? You have some traits which need to be noticed, which did not happen in this particular case. Therefore, Miran is absolutely right that this was unprofessional. And, looking for something non-traditional is just not there because they are acclimatized to routine checks.
Okay, before, I'm sure General Katoch wants to respond to that briefly. General Katoch, Yashwar is that saying it's too early, we don't know, maybe this is linked to some, popular agitation outside. Why link it to terror? We don't see the Pannu link.
That may be true. It may be linked to a political cause. It may not be a terrorist attack. My point is slightly different, and I want the nuance to be made clear. It has to be treated like a terrorist attack. There are two different things, because my larger fear is that now we will say, oh, ye to bacche the, इन्होंने सिर्फ smoke bomb छोड़ा, इनको छोड़ दो, जाने दो, and there'll be a whole lot of voices raised to say, "Kya hi kya hona, kuch hua hi nahi." That is not the, I want to give you a practical example. Pulwama. There was a car bomb which exploded and we lost 25 to 30 odd people. It was a very, very severe tragedy. Now, theoretically, if we had caught that vehicle earlier, what would we say? It is not a terrorist attack simply because the bomb didn't go off. So this is the larger danger. Once nothing happens, everybody gets back to the normal. Okay, bhai, sab theek thak hai. I want to make it very explicitly clear in your channel, Barka, sab theek thak nahi hai. This has to be viewed very seriously. The parliament is the most secure building. And if it can happen in parliament, then what is left? What is the sanctity of anything else? So regardless of the fact whether these people were terrorists or not, or whether they were motivated by terrorism, this must be treated as a terrorist attack. And these people should be put away for life. Barka.
I think this is a very important point, that उनके जो भी इरादे थे वो अभी relevant नहीं है. The fact is that they breached parliament. The fact is that they were able to get inside the Lok Sabha with smoke bombs in their shoes. So punish them like you would punish terrorists, General Katot says. Now, 2 videos before we come back. First, that testimony from Kakoli Ghosh, we do have that ready now. Let's play it out.
गैलरी से कूद के आ गया ऊपर से, बाप रे, उतना ऊपर से नीचे. हाँ, they came in where we are sitting.
Yeah.
They jumped there.
And they were running around. They were running around.
They are running around inside.
Inside.
Then more than one. And was anybody hurt? They were giving some slogans and some yellow gas they are spreading somehow.
They were holding it. They were holding gas.
There were some slogans, some yellow gas. And then what happens? Where were the marshals? When this happened, what should have been the SOP? Instead, the MPs got together and beat up these intruders. Take a look at that video with the sound up, please. Where, Miran Borvankar, were the marshals? चलो ये घुस गए. उसके बाद, anyone wants to take a look at, respond to the MPs, having to handle them on their own?
So, Barkha, I'm surprised you're not raising the questions of human rights.
I'm sorry. You please think of it. This man has jumped from above you with a bomb in his shoe. मैं होती तो मैं भी पीटती. But that doesn't change the fact. That doesn't change the fact कि marshals कहाँ थे? Because it should have been the marshals there escorting these men out.
So what I feel is General is absolutely right. Even if it is not a terrorist attack, we should take it as one and we should accept that sab theek nahi hai. So that's, I totally agree. And you may think it crazy, but let me tell you, I feel our mock drills are so routine. Instead, let's have bachchas. Let's have some youngsters who can tell us where they feel they can jump 15 feet down, and which we as very adult and well-trained security persons may not be able to see the breaches. They are able to see. So my main point is here in this particular show is, and after this very grave episode, if we want our security to be really good, then we have to think out of the box, think of the breaches beyond the usual routine thinking of a security person. Let's involve youth and let's find out where are the breaches from their eyes. I would personally like to understand these from these 4 people, how they planned. And I don't think any of them would have either been inside the parliament. It's so new that how did they execute? What was their plan? So let's not at this moment talk of terrorism, but let's talk of beefing up the security and making it foolproof. That would be my emphasis.
Now, I'm Meera Borvankar, you asked me very naughtily about human rights. I will tell you, I was people on my Twitter timeline, when I shared the video of the MPs trying to tackle these intruders, instead of lauding them, कि भैया, you showed the presence of mind, you stopped this guy. People did ask me. People said, this is rowdyism. Ye kya kar rahe hain? This is not due process. I am saying this is inside parliament. The man has jumped 15 feet above your head with a smoke bomb. You're seeing smoke clouds. The human instinct would be, you have no idea how dangerous the man is, Dr. Tara Karta. You have no idea at this point. ये तो बाद में पता लग रहा है ना कि भाई maybe they don't have any organizational links. You know, Dr. Karta, how do you see how the MPs reacted?
I'd say hats off to them. I mean, no doubt that they just went in and grabbed this guy. I would have run the other way, right? But Bharka, there's one thing I want to say. See, beyond what we're talking of security breach, etc., the date. I mean, my God, in my years of service, every 26/11, every time an attack has happened, those dates, we sort of send out these notes saying, please beef up, please do this, please do this. There's a bunch of things which happen on those dates. Second is, all of us, remember, when the Hamas attack took place, all of us said, oh, you didn't even know that it was October 6th was a significant date. Israeli intelligence failure. What about us? I mean, there is a significant date and you do nothing. It doesn't make sense to me. As a professional, this is so out of the line that I just can't make it out. And look at that video with that policewoman who's escorting that girl away. And all she had to do was to, hug her and maybe hold her hand and give her a pat on the cheek. Is this the way you handle someone? How do you know she's not a suicide bomber? So the whole thing is inexplicable. On the date 26/11, when we always know that terrorists will use that date. So that's what I'm really surprised.
Should heads roll in what should happen to these 4 people who have been arrested, 2 inside, 2 outside parliament? Before that, one of the members of parliament who tackled these intruders gives his short edited account of what happened. Listen.
सर आज क्या हुआ सर पार्लियामेंट में?
पार्लियामेंट में आज 0 आवर चल रहा था, तो 0 आवर के चलते जब मैं बोल के बैठा फार्मर इशू के, तो विशेष शोर होता है सामने इधर लेफ्ट साइड से, स्पीकर के बिल्कुल सामने से, कि 2 आदमी ऊपर से छलांग लगाते हैं। तो एक आदमी चेयर के ऊपर से निकलता है जहां पार्लियामेंट मेंबर बैठते हैं, तो मैंने फिर जोर से लगाया कि इसको पकड़ो जरा आगे से। तो वो फिर हनुमान बेनीवाल उसकी तरफ बढ़ते हैं। जब मैं वहाँ पहुँचा तो मेरे को पता था एक आदमी और गिरा है, वो दिखता नहीं। फिर मैंने उसकी तरफ ढूंढने निकला तो उतनी देर में वो अपना बम स्मोक बम निकाल के उसको पकड़ता है। तो फिर मैंने उसको जाकर दबोचा और दबोच के वो स्मोक बम खींच के वो लेकर मैं बाहर गया। तो मतलब उस समय तो बहुत मंजर और ही तरह का था, पता नहीं अब क्या है क्या नहीं है उनके पास, लेकिन हमने जितनी ताकत थी उनको रोकने की कोशिश की और रोका और पकड़ा।
Okay, let's get final comments. What should happen to these 4 men? Should heads roll? I'll start with you, Meera Bonwankar.
4 people.
I can't hear. 2 bahar, 2 andar. 2 bahar the, 2 andar the.
So heads rolls means I would first like to find out what motivated them, how did they execute, and definitely if they are terrorists or they have some alliance with terrorist organizations, heads should move. Otherwise, I would not like to treat them as terrorists. I feel it's more of our failure than their access to the parliament.
More of our failure. Yet, Mr. Azad, you say it's not an intelligence failure. I'm not understanding. Can we unmute Mr. Azad, please? Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Intelligence failure would be if there was a specific plan planned in advance, a kind of a terrorist break-in. But this kind of you cannot expect. These are guests of the MPs. But the caution, that's what I'm saying, non-professional approach on a day which commemorates that particular day with sadness about the security men losing their lives. The caution had to be exercised and there should have been extra vigil today. That was missing. And secondly was the unprofessional approach. I'm glad the panelists have also come back to this approach that the most important thing right now is to beef up security of the Parliament House and see there is no recurrence of this. Second is the part of investigation into failure. And third is, of course, proceeding against those 4 accused.
Would you put them away from life, as General Katoch said, or we simply don't have enough information to know that? General Katoch makes the argument that just by virtue of what they did, it is an attack on Indian statehood.
I would say it's an attack on the I won't say it's an attack on the against the Indian state at all. In fact, there is a lot to be inquired into. First, as Miran said, we have to do a detailed interrogation by the IB and other security agencies. What was the plan? What was the intent? To prove terrorism, there has to be intent. There has to be some action. There has to be some kind of visible trace, which is not there so far. If we get the links, if we get the connections, then yes. Therefore, too early to say anything like that.
Okay, Dr. Karta, your last thoughts?
I agree with Mr. Azad. It's not an intelligence failure. Intel is, and 100% would have been keeping an eye on all the standard groups. They would have kept eye on, every single thing that they were talking, doing, or moving. This is a bunch of crazies, right? So it's not an Intel failure. It's a failure on the ground. So you have to make that difference. Failure on the ground, yes. What should you do next? I agree with what Mrs. Meeran said. You need to think out of the box in terms of how to. We can't just keep saying beef up security. It has to be a question of what is likely to happen from when young people start trying to do these things. Will someone else use the same tactic with this kind of, there's something which nobody ever thinks of. So I think that point is there, that you use younger people, think of other ways that your security, and it's not really an attack on the Indian state. I mean, this is basically a bunch of pranksters, a little ahead of pranksters, but that's all. So I wouldn't go that far. But if someone else uses this, the message is clear. You were attacked. You could nearly have had a very serious attack.
General Katoch, bunch of crazies. Not a bunch of wannabe or would-be terrorists?
No, you see, Barka, I agree with that. There may be a bunch of crazies, they may be politically aligned. But the fact is, if you don't punish them with due severity, it'll happen again. And it'll happen again and again and again. So we cannot let us say it's a prank. There are a bunch of college kids. It doesn't really matter. Put them away for life. It has to be a message sent to the rest of them. You cannot do this. The second point about beefing up security on a lighter vein, I'll just take 1 minute. You see, more than 3 decades back, I was occupying a segment of the line of control. And some incident took place somewhere, and all the papers said security has been further tightened. Now, I'm the chap right in the front, I'm the chap who's fighting the security. There's nothing further to tighten. We have got 5 years of security in Parliament. Are you going to have 10 or 20 or 30? It doesn't really matter. Those people have to be held accountable. Why did you let it happen? In the airport, there is just one level of security, and it works so smoothly because they are conscious every single day that something may happen here. Here, you've got 5 levels of security, and you allowed them to get through. It is unacceptable. So it's not an intelligence failure. It is a failure on the ground, one. Number two, please don't take it seriously and say these are just school kids and out for a lark. Treat it as a very serious offense and put them away behind bars for life. That is the message which should go to the environment. Barka.
Okay, varied perspectives on what the origin and the motive of the attack was. No variation on the fact that they were able to expose vulnerability in the system, a certain kind of dullness, a certain kind of inertia in the system. When you process it, you think these are chaps who were able to get in with smoke bombs in their shoes. We haven't, of course, spoken about the bizarre way in which some of our media people behave fighting over the canister. That was a piece of evidence. And that area should have been cordoned off. Yeah, sure, you're laughing. I was embarrassed to watch that video as well. Any last thoughts on that? We didn't see an immediate yellow ribbon around that. Yeah, sure.
Well, there are problems in the investigative procedures, and there are people who don't act in the manner which conforms to the rules. But one last point I want to make, Barka.
Yeah.
Beefing up security does not mean adding more manpower. Beefing up security means that the security quotient becomes higher when you make the necessary changes. There is a lot of problem and a lot of things to be done for the parliament security. There's a parliament security duty group which does these checks. And therefore, you have to reform the entire system. How much of deputation is, how much of people there, what is the profile, what is the age group, what is the professionalism, what is the training, what is the security audit. These are things which need to get into and which were happening earlier, and I'm sure they'll be happening again.
Yeah, I think we can't take a dim view or a light view or an underestimated view of what has happened today. No matter the damage was not inflicted, there was no loss to life, unlike the attack that took place 22 years ago. The fact is that the fact that they were able to do it, get inside, I think that's the point General Katoch is making, and almost everyone has agreed on that. We leave it there. Many disturbing questions raised by this to General Katoch, Meera Banwalkar, Yasho Azad, and Dr. Tarakarta. Thank you. We're glad everybody is safe today. That much has to be said. And a moment of remembrance for those who lost their lives in the line of duty guarding India's parliament 22 years ago. Today was the anniversary of that attack. Thank you for joining us, to our panel and to our audience. Thank you for watching.
Mojo Story has always made a commitment to its viewers to go to where the story is. And as you can see here, we are at the epicenter of the Israel war on Gaza. We are right at the front line, about 1 mile from the Gaza Strip, as the Israeli military gets ready with its tanks and its gunners to begin its final frontal assault that will take troops into Gaza. As we said, we are not like other organizations. We believe in giving you all sides of the story objectively and as much as possible from the ground. And that's exactly what we're doing here, covering the biggest global story today from the epicenter of the war zone. So please, we need your support. Support us, become a Mojo member, subscribe to us, spread the word, and thank you for your support.